Welcome to Incy Wincy series. Universe is fascinating. And if somebody tells you you are a star, do believe. Because we all are made of stars. We and almost everything is matter. What is matter and why it matters? If you have missed the video, do check the link in the description box. And in the previous video, we have also asked you what are matter made of. Matter is made up of small tiny particles called as atoms. And a big shout out to Bhumija, Sean, Jennifer, Sharmila and Sharon. Well, coming back to the question, are we really made of stars? Well, to understand this, let's zoom into the human body. Human body is made up of various elements, and among those elements, oxygen is the most abundant element. Do you know our body contains coal? A person weighing around 70 kg will contain 0.2 mg of coal. Okay, we know that elements are made up of atoms. And what are atoms? They are the building blocks of matter. Atom is made up of electrons, protons, which are positively charged, and neutrons, which are neutral. And the core is called as the atomic nuclei, which contains protons and neutrons. Well, it's easy to say that atoms are made up of electrons, protons, and neutrons. But how these atoms were created? Atoms were created after the Big Bang. The most accepted theory for universe is the Big Bang. According to the Big Bang, the universe started to expand from a single point and it's still expanding, something like this. First few moments after the Big Bang, the universe was extremely hot and dense, and at this temperature the neutrons and protons, they combine together to form the atomic nuclei, which is called as the nucleosynthesis. Nucleosynthesis can happen only at higher temperatures. See, atomic nuclei cannot be formed just like that. It needs higher temperature. Why? Because the atomic nuclei contains protons and neutrons. Protons, they are positively charged. Supposingly, I have one proton over here and another proton over here. So both are positively charged. So when both are positively charged, do you think will they attract? No, they won't attract. Unless and until certain conditions are provided, they will fuse together. So what is that condition over here? The condition is high temperature. High is like millions of degrees Celsius. It's not just 30, 40, but millions of degrees Celsius temperature is required. So once the temperature is high, these protons will be in continuous motion and finally these protons, they fuse together. So to form an atomic nuclei, high temperature is required. Expansion of universe began around 13.8 billion years ago. As I already said, in the first few moments after the Big Bang, the temperature was very high and the universe was dense. So as the universe gets expanded, what happens is the energy gets diluted, so as the temperature also gets reduced. So around after 380,000 years, what happens is this atomic nuclei, which was initially formed after the Big Bang, will start capturing the electrons. And the first atoms were created, and these were majorly the lighter elements like hydrogen and helium and small amounts of lithium. We know how the lighter elements were formed, but what about the heavier elements? So let's fast forward to 150 to 200 million years after the Big Bang. What happened? Stars were formed, and out of these stars, heavier elements were formed. Stars are huge balls of fire. Star formation takes millions of years. Stars are formed from molecular clouds called nebulae. The nebulae contains hydrogen, helium, molecular hydrogen and other particles. Differences in the density of the clouds may lead to gravitational disturbances. Due to gravitational disturbances, the cloud begins to collapse and form clumps. Clumps have more mass and therefore a strong gravitational pull attracts particles from the surroundings. Over the course of million years, the clumps grow denser and hotter. The temperature becomes so high that this leads to smaller nuclei to fuse to form larger nuclei through the process called as nuclear fusion. The nuclear fusion produces high energy and therefore the stars are shiny. Almost everything in the universe has a lifespan, so do the stars. The stars die. The stars explodes when fuel is exhausted. The fuel here is the atoms. So once the atoms get exhausted, the star dies and it explodes, and the explosion is called as supernova. As we have already seen, the heavier atoms were formed inside the star, and during this explosion, the heavier atoms are released throughout the universe. The supernova remnant contains the heavier elements like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, which forms the basis of life. So we are all made of dead stars or star dust. I hope you would have understood how atoms were created. Question time. We all know Sun is a star, but do you know which country created an artificial sun? If you know the answer, do comment below. Let me give you a clue. The country which is responsible for the current pandemic situation. I hope you all know the answer now, so do comment fast. Thank you for watching the video.